Gig Gab, episode 499. I know. For Monday, September 15th, National Linguini Day 2025. I don't know. It's National Linguini Day.
Hey.
I don't make this stuff up. I could. You can make up your own day, folks.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, a show by, for, and about working musicians here in Durham, New Hampshire. I'm Dave Hamilton. Our sponsors for this episode are GigSalad.com, where you can go to create your free profile and then start booking your band with all kinds of different things. We had Mark Steiner from GigSalad on earlier this year. You can listen to that, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And gigperformer.com/giggab, where you can go to get 10% off of this fantastic plug-in host, audio mixer, super reliable software to do all the stuff you need it to do on stage. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. For now, my guest co-host today is someone who I have mentioned on the show previously. I have had the pleasure of working with and being on stage with more than a handful of times. And he is a founding member of the band, the Soggy Po Boys. He's the one behind Diaspora Radio, which when I talk about some of these tribute gigs, these album tribute gigs that I've done with the Marvin Gaye thing and the Talking Heads thing, and there's other that we've done too. We've got Thriller coming up. We did Rumors together.
Rumors, yeah.
Yeah. Stu Dias, thank you so much for taking your time with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's a real joy.
Yeah, this is a long time in coming. I've had you on the list for a while here.
I mean, I feel that way, especially because, like, you know, I feel like after every rehearsal that's at your house, I usually stay here and we shoot the shit for like 35, 40 minutes.
This is true. We just stand on the we sit in the other half of this room and do this. That's true.
It's like, we're leaving this on the table. What are we doing?
We should just sit down here. Yeah, instead of standing around. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. This podcast, you're right. This episode's happened many times. Well, maybe not this episode, but an episode has happened many times. Yeah. So let's just get into some of the music. We can talk about the origins of who you are too,
sure, totally.
Throughout this. But you've created several things in your musical life. At least two that I know about. Maybe a third. But I know there's more than that, of course. But the one that we've talked about in the shows, which is a good place to start, is Diaspora Radio, which is this thing that you created, what was it, back in 2021? Is that when it started?
Yeah, it was 2021. It was sort of, we weren't quite sure, but we felt like the pandemic was meandering towards an end.
Sure.
We weren't sure. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And that was tough because we all, like, the toughest thing to reckon with was when the pandemic hit. Live music was the first thing to go, and all of us knew it was going to be the last thing to come back.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
Like we all knew that, and so we sort of very tentatively started this project, and we didn't know how long it would go. I had no idea, but the idea came out of just me being in the car with a buddy, and we're on a road trip, and like play a tune, and like while. Like we started Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
And we started the record, right? And like while the opening of the record's happening, he's like searching for the next tune he wants to play. Oh. And you know, it was this bizarre like moment where I was like, I do that all the time too. Like while someone has chosen a thing for us to listen to, I'm just like, well, what's the next thing we listen to? And I just like don't take the moment to enjoy this thing that someone has shared with me, you know?
The whole album.
The whole album. And then also like, you know this because you've made records before. Like the casual listening audience doesn't understand this stupid, like insane conversations that happen regarding making an album.
The fights about just the sequencing order of the songs.
The order of songs, right? Like it's crazy.
It's already recorded. Everything's done, except it's not.
But it's not in the right order. And you get into arguments but the thing about that's beautiful is like when you hear an album that's designed to be an album, and this is like, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything at Taylor Swift or anything, but that's a collection of songs, you know?
Yeah. You're probably right. I don't know how she chooses her sequencing, but
if I'm wrong, until you happen to be listening to this, please don't, have the aliens kill me. But
feedback at giggabpodcast.com, Taylor. We'll take care of it. We'll get your feedback straight to Stu.
But it is a testament to how much time and care goes into constructing an album. I think like you're passionate about it. And the reason you fight about it isn't because you are trying to assert dominance or something. It's because you genuinely care about this beautiful thing that you're creating and putting out into the world. And you want it to be the most ideal listening experience ever. And I felt in that moment that like we have a little bit lost that. And there's all of these incredibly wonderful and just phenomenal records that like 2 or 3 songs from. And there was this like interesting kind of like technology-based thing that was going through my head where it was like, well, right, because at the time, skipping around on a record was a horrible and annoying thing to do.
Oh, to move the needle, to be able to land it in between tracks, that was an art form in and of itself, right?
So it's just like, do I want to try and save 3 minutes to find the thing that I want and spend like 30 seconds trying to do that, and then have to go back and sit down.
And then you're interrupting yourself. This is true. The friction required to skip tracks, or perhaps the lack of friction now, is what allows us to do what we do.
To do it, right?
Yeah. So, plus, it also was, you were in for 20 minutes total, right? But after the first song ended, you only had, 16 minutes left. So why bother skipping around? Just it's 15 minutes. Who cares? That's like 10.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wanted to, especially with these iconic albums where, like Rumors is a fantastic example. Like I love that record, and it is a fantastic record and not a fantastic collection of songs. It is a fantastic record. Like the sequencing of that album matters.
It is part of the art of that collection of work is the order, and not just the songwriting, not just the performances, not just the production, but then the sequencing of it.
And so that's what I wanted to do that, but make it a seamless experience. So like, when we do this, my goal is, unless the silence has a purpose, we try to start the record, play it through seamless. So when there's spaces between songs, we create something that links those 2 songs. But in general, it's seamless. So audience gets there, trapped in a reverie, done, go home. No encores. Sorry.
Yep. Yep.
And if we've done our job right, they shouldn't want one.
Correct. I think. I haven't been at the performance for all of them. I obviously haven't done all of them, but the American Beauty had an encore-ish.
We snuck one. It didn't, but we did cheat a little bit in that we snuck an interpolation of another song into the last song. That's fair.
It felt like an encore, but then you did bring it back around and actually end the album appropriately.
That one was kind of a special case, like love letter to my past self, honestly, because I used to have the first band I ever played with in the area was a band called Norlemain.
Okay.
And we almost always ended with Love Light. And I hadn't played that song in, my goodness, 14 years.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm probably not going to get another chance to do it again.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
yeah.
We're doing American Beauty. I had this killer band.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep. So I was curious how that evolved. Was it, and when I was watching it was like, knowing how committed you are to the vision, and I think that's great. I just assumed, therefore, that it was someone else in the band that was like, well, we got to stretch this out, man, and like twisted your arm, because as someone who has been in some of these bands, there's been arm twisting. There's conversations that happen. It's like, should we do a weird interpretation of this? Should we, like with Rumors? We had.
I think with Rumors, we struck a really nice balance.
We did. You had this soulful version, reinterpretation of "Don't Stop." And it was like, oh, this is really great, and it's really fun to sing and really fun to play. However,
right. You gotta give them a little.
You gotta give them a little bit of what they came for here,
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, you were there. That took some convincing.
Oh, I was the one. I felt like there was a sword, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to fall on it with this.
I was not convinced.
I know.
Was the right move.
Oh, I remember. You were not convinced until we played it.
Yeah.
And even then, perhaps up until this moment, I wasn't sure that you were convinced.
No, I still am not musically convinced that was the right thing to do. But in terms of being a performer,
yeah,
there's no question in my mind when we did the show and saw how the audience reacted to that change.
Yes,
that was the right decision. And ultimately, what we're doing is for people who are consuming it. And so, yeah, like, do I think that was the best musical representation of it? I mean, I thought the soul version was way better, and if we had a horn section, I would have loved for that to be the thing all the way through.
Sure.
But when I saw how the crowd reacted to that speed up, I was just like, yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong, man.
All right. Here's my thing about things like that. It formed in me when we all heard that acoustic version of Layla that Eric Clapton did, right? And the world, if you weren't paying attention, or if you weren't alive back then, or not alive and like old enough to pay attention, it was the world went nuts. Everybody, like, it was the only thing you heard on all radio stations. Didn't matter what their format was for a long time. And everybody said, this is a better... They were saying the same thing that you're saying here about this soulful reinterpretation or rearrangement of Don't Stop. Everybody said, this is a better version. And at first I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. And I started thinking, like, is it though? Like, if this were the first version of that, if the first version of Layla that we heard was this acoustic version, I don't think we would know Layla.
Well, and the other question I would have is, like, when you go to see Eric Clapton, which one you want to hear him play?
You want to hear the rockin' version of Layla. Right, exactly. It was cool. Like, the alternative version is great when you already know the original and have when you're, to use, for lack of a better term, when you're sick of it, right? But
there's something weirdly poetic about that.
Yes.
About the way that song specifically had a second life. Because if you think about what happened with blues music, originally, you would have these like Robert Johnson and Lightning Hopkins, very, very acoustic versions happen. And then, the Yardbirds or the Stones or Cream would take those songs and reinterpret them in an electric way. And I don't know if this was something that Clapton was even thinking about or conscious of, but there is something beautifully poetic to me about, okay, I conceived of this song as like a rockin' fast blues thing. And now I've taken it back to the Delta for the acoustic version.
Well, and it could have been he conceived of it as this acoustic thing, and his bandmates were like, "F that, man, we're good. Let's go. We're going to light some fires here." Like, right? Like, you don't. I mean, someone knows, but we don't know. But I felt the same way about the two different versions of Don't Stop. It was like, yes, this is cool, but only because we all already have the other one in our bones.
And
that's not a bad thing.
I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
No.
I also like I don't know. I find that there are some performer purists that kind of feel like we do a thing that's beautiful and interesting and cool, and the audience should like that. And to me, I just think, man, these people are paying to come see. You got to do some stuff for them.
Yes.
You got to. That's the only way that this works.
Yeah, that's right. They paid with their money and their time, right? I mean, especially post-COVID, and we've talked about this on the show in a variety of ways. You're competing with people's couches now. Our couches and our entertainment setups at home, if they weren't good pre-COVID, they got better.
They really, really did.
And so now it's like, well, do I want to leave the couch on a Thursday night to go see Stu's thing?
I mean,
right?
And here's the thing. Like,
and they do.
I'm the same, honestly, because look, I love going out to support as much as I can, but when I'm sure you more than anyone know this, when you gig that much, when you have a night off and you have your wife, or my case, my fiance, she's like she happens to have a night off on the same night. Are you really going to be like, hey, I know you perform. I know I perform. We have this one night off. Do you want to go outside? It's like a real...
The answer's no.
It's really hard to make the case that you got to go do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because most of the time we'd be like, well, do you want to sit on the couch and eat cheese and then watch a Wes Anderson movie? Because that seems great to me.
That's what I've had in mind all day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a real thing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I still very much love going out and catching live music, because I don't know. I still I've been in it for a couple of years now, and still feel like the local scene that we have here is incredible.
It is. There's so many good musicians. Blessed, There's so much good music. There's so many good venues.
And I also just feel like the seacoast functions in a slightly different way, where there's this sea turtle attitude to making music, where it's just like, all right, you make 12 bands and you hope that one of them does a thing,
Yeah.
And because of that, people are just like...
attitude to music. I didn't know where you were going with that, and now I totally get it.
You just interact with a lot of different people. You're like, well, I'll try this because this person's vibe is different. This person does a thing cool in this space. I'll try a bunch of different things and let's see if it works. And here's the thing. Like sea turtles, most of them don't.
Right.
Some of them do.
Yep.
And when they do, it's super cool.
When they do, you hang on to it. That's exactly it. Yeah. This is really interesting. This is what you just described there. Of course, I live here. I've lived here for 20 years. I'm steeped in it. I understand it. This show for the first nine and a half years, almost 10, was I had a co-host. He was on Paul Kent on the West Coast. He was just on a couple of weeks ago. He left because of schedules. We didn't hate each other. There was no big blow up or anything, But he lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's a very different scene there. And cover bands are. There's these wineries where people can play. It's a whole different thing. I
want to hear more about this.
There's 9 years of this, right, in the Gig Gab archives. But it's a whole different thing. They're bands. Most towns have a town green where they have bands at least one night a week all summer long, and there will be 5,000 people that come to see a band on a Wednesday night or something. Yeah. And we have some of that around here, but and when he described it, I was like, oh. And then I went out there and played some gigs with him because he needed a sub, and it was like, what? This is not. No, this I did not understand, right? But similarly, what you just described, where everybody's in a million different projects and everybody accepts that. It's frustrating at times, obviously.
Yeah, scheduling
sucks. There was a gig that I was supposed to do with you this summer, and you called me and you're like, Dave, you're not doing this gig. Your schedule doesn't fit. And thankfully, I've been doing it long enough that I was aware. I was like, I got to call Stu and tell him that this gig's not going to work. You just beat me to the punch, which was great. There was no hard. There's never hard feelings, but that's the thing. If I should have explained that to Paul.
I don't think that's the same in every scene.
It's not the same in every scene. No, he would have been really upset about that kind of thing. I asked you, but you can't do this, and that's not fair, and all this stuff. And it's no, it's just how life is, dude.
Well, it's also I know you can attest to this. It's not uncommon to have a weekend where you're like playing with 3 different bands on 3 different nights.
Or in the same night.
Or in the same
Yep, I've done that.
Me too.
I get the side eye when I get home after those gigs, but you know.
Oh, me too. But it's in the morning.
Yeah, right. But it's late. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was one day I know exactly what day it was last year. It was my wife's birthday, which happened to be a Saturday in August. And I had 2 gigs. And one of them started at I had to leave the house at 11 a.m. to do this afternoon gig over in Maine. And then had exactly enough time to bolt from that gig over to Manchester, which was about an hour and 10-minute drive to hit Downbeat. The band had set everything up for me. I literally walked in 10 minutes before we started the second gig.
Oh yeah, I played that game.
Yeah, I know. But she came to the second gig, and I'm like, "Hey, happy birthday!" And she's like, "Yeah, sort of." You know, she understands. We met because she I call her the groupie that gone awry. Right? She was coming out to see bands and stuff. So she gets it, but still. That's not the best day to have done that.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess my broader point about the scene is there is something. It sounds kind of sad when I if I were to watch the transcript of this and I saw, well, you make a bunch of bands and then 9 out of 10 of them don't work, but then one does, but. I don't know. The process of making something new is just so exciting and wonderful.
Yeah.
And
you learn from the failures too. Failures is the wrong word. They just didn't launch. It didn't happen.
And each group of different people have different strengths. And one of the things that I love about Diaspora, to kind of bring us back to that, is it is so fun to be able to pick a record and be like, oh man, yeah, Dave would murder this, or ooh, this is a funk record. Mike Walsh should be the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really fun to be able to be like, oh, this is what I'm working with, and I get to sculpt this in a way that I want, and I have an incredible, just cascade of incredible people available.
Yep.
Who. For some reason, keep saying yes.
Right. It's a fun gig. Here's the thing from my perspective about this. What I love about it is I get to say yes or no. Hopefully, I don't say yes to a thing that then it turns out I can't do. Only because that causes headaches and that's it. But otherwise, it's I get to choose the things that I get to choose to say yes to the opportunities that I want to do. I don't feel obligated. If you called me for a thing and you're like, "Hey, would you like to do Thriller in October?" And I'm like,
"It's not my bag,"
or "It's not my bag," or "I'm booked," or whatever. Right? Then it's okay, great.
Yeah, you'll still get another call.
Yeah, exactly.
The next thing comes
right. But yeah, and it's oh, what a great way to live. That's freaking amazing. But it's how this scene works, and I know that there's many of you listening that your scenes don't work that way, and that's okay. But it is different, and so it's refreshing to have this conversation with someone. That obviously we're in the same scene here, so we don't have to explain it to each other.
Right,
But it's interesting as we're having it. I'm thinking, oh man, if Paul was here, he would want to spend the next 20 minutes picking this apart in that way.
Oh, but I'd want to understand.
Same. Oh, that's why we did 9 years at Gig Gab together. Because
it's interesting. Because I visit my buddy in New Orleans all the time. He's, my best friend. And he plays in the trad scene down there. And one of the things that's been so interesting to just kind of understand from hanging out with him and chatting with him is at least in the trad scene, I'm sure it's different in the
traditional jazz for those rock musicians who don't know what that word means. I just wanted to again, these might be colloquial terms.
No, totally. I lived in that world for 12 years, and I forget that might be just blinders that
yes.
I have.
Yes, totally fine.
But one of the strangest things to kind of understand is that the word band, at least within the confines of the traditional jazz scene down there, is extremely loose. It basically means who's around to do the gig.
It's who's on stage right now.
Right? It's just this. There's nominally a band name, but the people who show up could be different every time. Like
Yes.
there might be one or two people who are there every time.
Sure.
And then like everyone else is just like swap them in and them out. You know?
Rotating cast of characters.
And they're all killer. And they're all killer musicians.
Yes.
But that's a sort of long-winded way of saying like that scene doesn't work the way that this works, but that is also healthy in its own beautiful way.
It works. It works perfectly in a very different way. There are many versions of perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's many versions of failure too, obviously.
I mean, let me ask. Can I ask you something?
I want to. Yes. I hate that I'm doing this to everybody.
It's okay.
No, but we will. The next thing that's right after the next thing we do, you will ask this question, because the next thing that I want to do is I want to talk a little bit more about our two sponsors, because our motto, always be performing, right? But that only works if your rig actually shows up for the gig as reliably as you do. And that's what I love, and so many of you have told me you love about using Gig Performer, the live performance software trusted by touring pros for rock solid stability. No crashes, no uh-oh moments mid-song, just confidence that your setup works exactly as you designed it. And that's what I'm getting at here, because Gig Performer is flexible as heck. Host your VSTs, your AUs, integrate hardware, run backing tracks, automate patch changes. It's like running your whole studio inside one performance environment that, did I mention, is super rock solid and reliable. Building sounds is fast and fun with the drag and drop wiring view. Setlist view keeps your show organized, and you can even map pedals, knobs, and sliders to control anything. It's super smooth. Like, it feels like your rig is reading your mind, which is really where we all should be, right? And here's the cool part. There are two versions. Gig Performer Essentials is just $59, streamlined with all the core tools, plus 1,000 preset sounds. Perfect if you want to get up and running fast. Then there's Gig Performer Pro for $169. The full powerhouse with Rig Manager, GP Script, multiple instances, OSC support, and all the advanced features you'd need to run like an arena show or subbing a stadium-sized dragon as your opening act. Okay, maybe not yet, but someday, right? They're working on it. Grab either version now at gigperformer.com/giggab or use code GigGab at checkout and you get 10% off. Simplify your rig, unleash your creativity, and always be performing with Gig Performer. Again, that's gigperformer.com/giggab or code GigGab at checkout for 10% off. And my thanks to the folks at Gig Performer for sponsoring this episode. And as we keep saying, always be performing means you've got to keep your calendar full. That's where our sponsor GigSalad comes in. Whether you're a solo act, a band, or a DJ, GigSalad connects you with event planners across the U.S. and Canada looking to book talent for weddings, parties, corporate gigs, you name it. And they've got a hugely strong Google presence, which means that when planners are searching for live music, you show up. No more waiting by the phone like it's 1987 hoping for a call from the club owner. What I love how easy it is, you go in, you set your availability, you filter the types of gigs that you want, and then message, quote, and book all in one place. It's smooth, it's streamlined, and clients even pay up front. So your money's guaranteed every time. We've talked about this in our Gig Gab interview with the team, and honestly, it feels like having your own personal booking agent who never ghosts you, never forgets your rider, and never eats the last slice of pizza in the green room. This is important stuff. Head to GigSalad.com and create your free profile today. That's GigSalad.com. And make sure to tell them Gig Gab sent you, because when you always be performing, GigSalad helps you always be booking. Again, GigSalad.com. And my thanks to GigSalad for sponsoring this episode. All right, Stu, you're up.
So, I don't know all of your history. I've known you for some time. Right?
Sure.
But what was the scene that you grew up in? What was that like? And then, then you were on the road for like several decades.
No. I was on the road only for like part of a year.
Okay.
It wasn't.
You were all over the place, right?
I was. Yeah. I grew up in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which is essentially a suburb of Manhattan. We've had this conversation because I noticed your area code on your phone number. I'm like, why do you have a 203 area code? So I grew up in Norwalk,
My family lives in NOLA.
I know.
Yeah.
So does mine. My mom still lives there. I know. It's crazy. So I grew up down there, and the scene there wasn't all that different at that point in time than the scene here. It was very. Everybody was kind of in multiple bands, but it was, in the way that I say it's similar to here, it was very focused on original music. Now, this is in the mid to late 80s through the 90s.
Yeah.
And so I was in I was in an original band in high school, and that was like the thing people wanted. That band slowly morphed into being a cover band. Because there was a lot of like weird like infighting about the originals, but our originals were better than most of the covers that we played. Like that band, there were some really good songs that band wrote and played, and we had a lot of people that would come out, and see us. And then when I got into college, one of the guys that I was in that band with also kind of went to the same college. We went to the University of Connecticut, and we started a band essentially that became sort of headquartered there, but it was the same vibe. It was a band called Go Figure. It was the same vibe, very original focused. We became, we would play gigs for thousands of people that knew the lyrics to our songs.
People interacted with each other.
It was a whole scene, and I didn't know it at the time. In fact, I didn't know it for the first 5 years that I had been playing with John McCormick. But John McCormick, who's been on the show, he's a guitar player in Bitter Pill. He's done some Diaspora shows. You know him very well.
We play in a band together.
You play in, that's right. You play in Dreadnought together, right?
No, Wizard S.
Wizard S. Sorry, I knew I had it right. That's right. Okay, right. And so after we'd been playing for 5 years, John happened to mention this Battle of the Bands that his band won at the University of Connecticut. He was in a band called Fly Spinach Fly at the time.
Yeah, legends.
And I was like, wait a minute. We played that same Battle of the Bands. And I remember watching, who I now know is Bill, climbing like the speaker stacks. And what's really interesting is now this is, this was 1990 early, like 1991, maybe it would have been, and maybe 92, but certainly not later than maybe 93, but not 95. Nobody had like cameras in their pockets or anything. There's a videotape that exists of their set, and it was taken from the same vantage point that I remember watching their set. So like this camera must have been within 10 feet of me.
Oh yeah.
And we were up like backstage, had like a balcony in this club, or in this room. It was a big, it was the field house. But I remember seeing this video, just a clip of it, and it was just like, wait a minute, how does my memory exist on the screen? Like, this is impossible. But it was a Bill climbing the speaker stacks. I was standing with our singer watching their set. And as soon as we saw him climb those speaker stacks, we're like, all right, so we just lost. Because he's got more. We had a lot they had more.
Speaker stack energy. That's hard.
That's hard. You can't compete with. We were like, oh, they deserve. If we win, that's not fair. They should win. But like John and I have talked about it, and we really came from very parallel scenes. We met in the middle at this one gig,
Yeah, right.
And but
little did you know you'd be playing music together,
right? Yeah, but like the scene in the Portsmouth, seacoast of New Hampshire was very similar to the scene that was happening. So I think maybe this scene was happening throughout New England, because certainly Boston at that point in time, we played a lot of gigs in Boston. I know they did too. And there were a lot of clubs for original music. It was just, original music was like the thing. I remember when I played in my first band that was officially a cover band, and I was hired by a guy that I worked with who at the time, I imagine he still is if he's still alive, he was 20 years my senior or something. And he had this cover band. They needed to play a wedding, and their drummer couldn't do it. And he knew I was a drummer. And he's like, do you mind coming and playing these like Beatles, Stones, Motown songs? I'm like, where? And he's like, oh, it's down in Long Island. I'm like, okay, cool. So nobody will know me. All right, yeah, I'll go do that gig. Right. Like there was a little bit of shame in playing cover music in that scene.
I do think that's interesting though, because like, here's the thing that I don't quite understand. Like I think that there is a portion of the music community that frowns on people who take GB gigs.
General business gigs.
Sorry,
we've used that term on Gig Gab many times, but it's been a while. Yeah.
But
yes,
I don't care. I'm just like, hey, man, you got to pay the bills.
Yeah, but also those songs are fun to play, it turns out.
I mean, you know what I would give if someone paid me to come show up and play Uptown Funk? Like, I'd be super into that.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, playing songs that people already know that they want to hear and they want to have a party, and you get to throw that party or lead that party or be part of that party for them. Where's the harm in this? Like, in my opinion, there's no shame. But there was when I was, 20-year-old Dave or whatever.
To me, there's shame if you're doing it and you're playing music that you fundamentally hate, but just happen to be good at it, and then just like if you fundamentally hate it and play it convincingly, fine. But if you're like sour faced the entire time,
no, you can't. You gotta deliver it.
You gotta do it.
But you learn
say yes or no.
You learn to yes, you can say yes or no. It's okay to say no. But very quickly. I mean, it was at playing that wedding. I think I was even over it before we even got to the wedding because I went down and rehearsed with them a few times and. I was like, holy crap, wait, this is a good hang. This is fun. These guys can play and sing well. Why does everybody hate this?
Another thing that I think is maybe a little bit thrown out the window when we talk about general business gigs is like, especially when it's a wedding and you see the thing that you do make the people that have hired you to do it just like ecstatic. I don't know, man. Like, you're taking home a reasonable paycheck because those gigs are some of the best paying gigs around if you're not famous.
That's right.
You're taking home a decent paycheck, and like you get to see this really beautiful moment. And like, in your mind, when you got up that morning, you're just going to a gig. When they have that moment, they've been working on this for months, possibly years.
Yes.
And it's culminated in you doing a thing that you woke up this morning and were like, okay, I guess I'll play for once in my life. And then you look at the people for whom you're playing and you're like, wow, this is like...
This means something right now.
This is making... And like the way you're talking about, it's like, how did someone film my memory? Like, that's the thing that's happening to those people,
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So... I have no issue now, obviously, playing cover tunes, but yeah, that was what the scene was like. It was all very original. But what was cool about that is, the big stages in the area all catered to original music, and that doesn't exist everywhere.
Not everywhere. I mean, that's so cool.
And it was like, McCormick and I had a moment. I'll share the story in this way. If you've heard me tell this story personally, you know that there's more to it, but that's okay. We were I'll probably tell all of it. It's fine. We were backstage between gigs at the Portsmouth Music Hall. This was like 2021, probably, with Bitter Pill. Original band, we play some like traditional songs, but basically all originals. And both of the shows were sold out, right? And we were on the outdoor stage they had like in COVID times.
Actually, one of my favorite things about Bitter Pill, like when I was with this Po Boys, I was at a Bitter Pill show and I was like, oh man, I know that song. What does this sound familiar? I was like, oh damn, that's a Bessie Smith song. And just nobody knows when you're down and out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've just never heard it not swung. Like a maniac.
Right. That band kind of swings it. It's more like a Ringo swing than a straight swing. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a shuffle with Bitter Pill. Yeah. That's how we do it. Yeah, exactly. But the majority of our set is we are an original band, right? And so it was amazing to be able to do these 2 sold out shows. A beautiful day. We're backstage cooling off. It was a hot summer day, cooling off. And we were talking about it. And I was like, when we were both when he was in Fly Spinach Fly, when I was in Go Figure, we were kids. You start a band, you write some songs, you start playing them, you record the songs, you play for 5 people at your first gig, and then soon it's 200 people, and then soon it's 2,000 people. And you just, we both took it for granted. I don't want to say you take it for granted, folks. We did individually. We didn't know each other at this point, but we were living the same story. And you're just like, this is what happens. You start a band, and then there's thousands of people that want you to play for them, and they sing your lyrics, and they wear your T-shirts, and they buy your CDs, and it's how it goes. And then it falls apart. It doesn't turn into this thing that's a 50-year career, and everybody knows your name. It turns out that that's what happens, right? And so you realize as you mature, or just as time passes, whether we've matured or not, it doesn't matter. That oh, wait a minute, we were really fortunate to have that happen even once time.
Most
right?
people don't get it.
No, and there we were backstage while it was happening again, and we're like, oh, we need to do everything in our power not to screw this up.
Right. Yeah.
And we need to make sure our bandmates don't screw this up. And at that moment, Billy walked in. We're having this deep conversation about this. You know, we had, I don't know, an hour maybe between gigs.
But
And there's
just to put a finer point on it,
Yeah.
with Bitter Pill specifically,
Yeah.
like the interesting thing there is you and John McCormick have lived that, but there's multiple generations of people in that band. So there's
Correct.
people who have never understood the thing that you and John and Billy understand.
no,
They've never lived it.
they've never lived it.
So
right.
they
Billy,
don't-
yeah, Billy also has understood it because we're the three 1971 people,
They
right?
don't know what that arc is like.
They can't know yet, right?
You
Yeah,
know?
Billy's daughter can't know that because this is her first band. Like, yeah. And Billy walks in and we're like, he's like, what are you guys doing? We're just talking. What are you talking about? And we told him. And we're like, but also, you know, we came to this conclusion that we can't screw this up. And we looked at Billy and we're like, you can't screw it up either. And Billy's like, you know I'm going to screw it up. It's like, no, you can't. You're not allowed. You're not allowed. And Billy's like, you know I'm going to. We're like, we're not going to let you. We're here to keep that from happening. And,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, and that's, I mean, that there is, when you're in a band, part of your job as band leader, band member, it doesn't matter, is to not break up the band. Like, that's often one of the most important jobs you have. Don't
mean,
break up the band.
You're right. I mean, the thing that so there's a couple points I want to make regarding that. So one is like, because you had that experience, you understand the sea turtle analogy. You know,
Yes.
It's just like, because most people don't get that once. You know, the amount of things you have to seed in the hope that one of them grows into something cool,
Yes.
is a lot. And like, you know, I was lucky, you were lucky, John was lucky that we had the first thing that we did be a cool thing. A lot of people don't get that.
No,
That's
and
cool.
you say that we were lucky, and we were, but also we didn't have, the first time it happened, we had nothing to compare it to, so we thought it was normal.
Right.
So that's maybe not quite as lucky because we let it break up. I mean, you know, I certainly did with Go Figure, right? You know, it fell apart because there were, you know, there's all, I mean, I don't need to tell anybody who's listening to this, but obviously when you're in a band with people, there are things that they do that annoy you. There are things that you do that annoy them. It's humans
I mean, it's like
relating to each other, but you got to let it go.
To like, you know, like I adore my family, and I'm super close with them, right? But
Same.
I haven't lived in Connecticut since 2005.
Right.
And when I go back, it's always wonderful for a weekend.
Yeah.
But then when we go overseas, when we go on vacation together, when we travel to India, whatever, and we're together for like 2 weeks, you're like, well, it's a given that I love these people, but basically everything that they do annoys me.
Right.
You know?
Literally everything. And that's what being in a band is like. And you gotta
You're just like,
learn.
you love these people. I would die for these
Yep,
people.
you take a
They're
bullet.
my brothers and my sisters.
Literally brothers and sisters, right? Like, you know, yeah.
And you're just like, but God damn, why are you chewing that gum like that? You know?
Yeah, it's the stupidest things too. But that's what happened. It, you know, in the first band, it was like, well, the easiest thing would be to get rid of that guy. Well, it turns out, you know, he was a really good guitar player. He was a really good harmony singer. And better than both of those things, he was a great songwriter. And better than that, he plus our lead singer were an amazing songwriting team. And breaking that up killed the fabric of what was the band.
Right.
That was the end of it.
That's the engine, right? Like
That was the engine. But I wasn't smart enough to know that at the time. None of us were. It seemed like a good idea. If we get that guy out, all the problems go away, which was true. But not really true. But it seemed true. But it also took out everything else.
I mean, I think that there's of value as a growing musician to understand when you're the engine and when you're the fuel. And there are bands that I'm in which I know that I am the engine and I'm driving it forward and I am, sculpting the final thing. But there's other gigs where I know that my job in this band is to elevate this person or this group of people. And this band will be successful only if I get over myself and make it my business to elevate these people, because that's what the people are here to see.
Yes. I mean, like, you asked me before we did the show if we cut things up into clips and put them out on social media. That's one, because that is so true. And it's hard to understand that. And it's even harder to do that because our egos get tied up in all of this stuff and not necessarily in a healthy way.
Well, I think you and me have done it long enough to know that just we're dumb donkeys.
Yes.
And we're just like, all right.
Yes. But
I'll step in a vacuum and take control.
Yes.
But unless this is my thing that I have orchestrated, my goal is to defer and to augment. And that's it.
That's where my whole phrase of Dave Bang Drum came from.
I cannot tell you how many times I've used that. Like, I'll be talking with Michelle about like drama that's happened.
Oh yeah.
Please don't cut this into a clip.
Nope.
This can be in the podcast. That's fine.
Okay.
She'll listen to it. But she'll ask me to opine on a thing, and I'll be like, Dave Bang Drum.
Yep. There you go. Yep. Dave Bang Drum. Yep.
I don't even use my own name.
No, it's a thing now. Yeah. It has nothing to do with me. That's right. But it's Dave Bang Drum. And that's where that came from. But I remember the first time, and it's easier to see this when it's someone else doing it. But I was playing in a band called the Responders in Connecticut. And it was a cover band. We had a fantastic singer, and the band evolved into a thing called Route 66. So for those of you that know the band or whatever, don't worry about what name I'm calling it. We had this guy named Rick Castillo, who was a singer. He was also a bass player, but a fantastic singer. Like really, really could just deliver soulful Rolling Stones, like that kind of thing. But all like Motown, he just had it. And the bass player in the band is a guy named Jimmy Ward. I got to get Jimmy on the show. Jimmy, for those of you that think you might know that name, you are correct. Jimmy was the bass player in a band called Steelheart, who was also from Norwalk, Connecticut.
I know Steelheart.
Of course you know Steelheart, right? They had that song, Angel Eyes. Yeah, right. And Mike Mativic was their singer. All of them from the same town that Stu and I referred to earlier that I call home, and that Stu calls home too. And Jimmy had toured the world with Steelheart. Like he was co-writer on most of their hits, several of which were #1, still pay royalties to this day. Right. So being able to play in a band with this guy was really interesting. And I mean, by the time we were playing in a band, it was obviously just a cover band. And Ricky Castillo didn't sing in that band all the time, but occasionally we would do gigs where he would come in and he would like be our lead singer for the night. Everybody else in the band could sing, everybody would sing, but occasionally we'd do gigs where we got to have Ricky. And at first I was...
Pause for a second. Yeah. Got to have. Did you have another singer?
Everybody in the band could sing. Okay,
but Ricky was like, oh, we get Ricky tonight.
We get Ricky tonight, right?
So
otherwise,
today we're just.
Otherwise, it's fine. Like we have Keith and Chris and Jimmy and Dave can and Steve can sing. Like that's fine. But this gig, Ricky's our lead singer. And at first, I was like, well, but that means like everybody else kind of has to take a back seat to Ricky. And I didn't get it at first. I was like, I don't know that this is a good idea. And I remember hearing Jimmy say to Rick when he was there, he's like, man, I love backing you up anytime you're here. And it was like, oh, I see. The role changes.
The role changes.
And it's okay that the role changes. Like that was the part of it. I knew the role changed. I didn't like it. But hearing Jimmy say it, it was like, oh, here's this guy who's got like street cred, anywhere he inserts himself. If he wants it, he could have street cred. And he wasn't the kind of person to brag or it's just not who he is. But obviously we knew who he was. And, the stories would come out, as you're packing up at a gig, like you hear oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, these are interesting stories. Some of which he could tell on Gig Gab, most of which he probably couldn't. At least not the ones I've heard. But anyway, it's so like, but hearing Jimmy utter that phrase, I love backing you up anytime we can. It was like, the gig sometimes changes.
Yeah.
It's not about me. I'm here to serve that person. And that then makes us collectively better.
Honestly, like that's a huge part of sort of where my head's at, because one of the things that I feel like is real important to keeping a scene vibrant and active is bringing new voices into the fold, And so, like, on Rumors, for example, we worked with Jennifer Rochelle, and Natalie Withington, right? Like, both of them not known in the music scene, really, but they were excellent performers, and they kill it. And I think that's something that, like, at least when I was coming up, I felt a little bit weird about, because I felt like this wasn't universal, so I want to be careful here.
Sure.
It wasn't universal, but,
these things happen.
There was a vibe that I felt where, there was like a cohort of the older generation that felt like, oh no, these guys are here to take our gigs. And I always felt so weird about that, because it's like, no, like, I adore you guys. Like, I've been going to your shows. Like, I revere you. Like, I'm not here to take your gigs. Like, I want to make music with you.
I want to do gigs with you. Yes.
And
yes.
And
but not everybody sees it that way.
But I, because of that, like, wanted to be like, all right, new people, come in. Because ultimately, there's going to be a time when I have to stop doing this.
Yes.
And when I stop playing, I don't want to stop going to see music.
No.
And when I
if you get to pick the people that are in the scene later, like, that's a good thing.
Yeah. You. All right, yeah. Let's go. Let's go to your show.
Yep. Let's go.
That's what I want.
Yeah. No, I heard Jimmy say that. It took me several years to truly understand and grok that, but yeah, it's like it's a good thing bringing people in and supporting them.
And I think I also think it's a really good, like, healthy, personal, psychological exercise to be able to say, okay, I've been this driver for so long, and it's not that I want to be a passenger, but my goal is to just let someone drive and to, maybe have the map out, maybe have...
Yeah, I'll help navigate. I'll be a co-pilot.
Like, I'll help get us where we're going.
Yep.
But maybe I'm not the driver on this one. And that's cool.
Oh, no, I learned early on, I'm the driver with so many of the things that I do outside of music, right? I mean, I run all these businesses and most of them fail, but it's fine. Enough succeed. Sea turtles. Exactly. Right. Yes, exactly. No, I'm going to use this analogy, not just in this podcast. Yeah, for sure. My business podcast, Business Brain, we'll talk about the sea turtles a lot now that you've sort of infused that into my brain. But I learned that I prefer to be the co-pilot in the band that I'm in. I don't want to be the leader. I have been. I'm sure something will come up.
I got a question for you regarding this, though.
Yeah.
Right? How do you, because I know I struggle with this, and, if we want to, we can get into how I feel about this, but, when you're the driver, when you're the creator, when you're the engine of so many different things, when they grow to a point, there's a point when you're no longer the person that can be the only person running that thing. How do you personally, mentally deal with, like, okay, I can let go of this part of it, and this part of it, and this part of it? Like, how do you deal with that? Because I struggle with that.
So do you want me to tell you, like, the logical, objective answer, or do you want the truth?
Just give me the truth.
Okay, the truth is I don't. I'm terrible at that. I'm awful at it. This is why.
Me too.
Yeah, this is why I have trouble growing businesses. Like it's why I really enjoy doing the Business Brain, the podcast that I do, my co-host and I, Shannon Jean, we argue about which one of us gets to learn the most from each episode. And like our listeners are not even in the running, right? It's which one of us gets to learn the most. And what I love about it is it forces me to look at this stuff. And I have become better at this by examining it, once or twice a week for the last 10 years. But I'm terrible. I'm still terrible at it. I'm a control freak. And this is why I have learned if I start out as the co-pilot, then I have less to give up as the thing grows. No. And I will say one of my most financially successful businesses is one where it still exists to this day. I started out as the co-pilot and I remain the co-pilot. I am not the largest shareholder. It wasn't my idea. It's all of the things. And I certainly contribute, and my partners also would agree with that, but it's not my thing, and so I have less to give up. Now, if you want the answer on how to do this, I can tell you how to do it. We've had people on Business Brain that have taught us. It's just a really hard lesson to learn. You
say you have to change the way your brain works.
Yeah, but here's a way to change it. Right here, I'll encapsulate this in 90 seconds or less. We had one guy on. I can usually remember his name. I can't, and I'm not going to look it up. But I'll find a link to the episode. He presented to us the 80% rule. It's not the 80% rule that you think. His 80% rule is, hey, look, if you have something that you're doing and you want to hire somebody so that you can free yourself up to do the other work, they only need to be able to do it 80% as well as you do it. And if you accept that they will do it 80% as well as you, then you let go. They're not going to do it as well as you, even though in reality they'll probably do it better. But that doesn't it doesn't matter for your lizard brain in that moment, right? You gotta find a way to give it up. And so it's like, if I can hire somebody, I think his whole thing was, if I can hire somebody to do the $20 an hour work, 80% as good as I can do it, so that I can go do the $200 an hour work or the $2,000 an hour work. Because otherwise I'm doing the $20 an hour work and nobody's doing the $200 or $2,000 an hour work, right? And so that was how he hacked his brain to grow his business. And I think that's a way to do it.
That's a really fascinating way to think about it. And internalizing that's going to be basically impossible.
It's super difficult. No, super difficult. But like objectively looking at it, of course that's the way to do it.
That's the thing about it that's so weird and stressful, right? Because like I love playing music more than anything in the damn world.
Same.
But everything about it is terrible except playing music.
Yep.
Just everything about playing music sucks except playing music.
Yeah.
Because like there's just
there's
but an audience
booking the
doesn't see
gigs
that,
and
right?
doing all the things
and organizing rehearsals and getting the gear and like, oh, this gear doesn't work and we bring our own PA.
Yep, and you're sweating. Is the PA going to work at the gig? That was my story Saturday night.
Organizing with the venue, making sure, and then promoting.
It sucks. I just want to be on stage. Dave bang drum.
And then you get up there, and it's all people have showed up, and you like sometimes you just get like 45 minutes, but you're just like, this is 45 minutes of lightning, and this will power me for like through the next 40 shitty gigs.
Yes, exactly.
Until the next one.
Until the next one.
Me,
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So but it's hard. Like and the reality is somebody has to do that work, because without that work, it doesn't matter how many times you've rehearsed, how good the band is. Like without that, there's no gig.
I also just this is the thing that I've lamented over the years is like you do sometimes based on the type of thing that you do get boxed in, right? Like,
of course.
I don't get called as a side man because people expect me to call them.
Right.
Right. Like, unfortunately, most people just assume, oh man, he's too busy.
He's too busy. Well, that's what happened to me. You remember when I called you a year and a half ago or whatever, and it was like, because I realized, I talked about this on the show, but you were one of the phone calls that I made when two of the bands that I was in didn't really survive COVID. Nobody died, right? But like the things went on hold. Priorities changed. It was hard to unhold things, right? So Bitter Pill was basically all I had left. And and Monkey Fist, but whatever. And so it was like, oh shoot, like my phone hasn't been ringing in a while. And I'm like, well, it's one of two reasons. Either people called me and I said no too many times, and so they assumed that it was going to be a no again, and why bother?
Yep.
Right? They presumed the answer correctly for a period of time, or people don't like the way I play. So,
but you have to that that's not the truth, and I knew that that's not the truth.
You know that that's not the truth, but like it gets in your head a little bit.
Oh, totally,
yeah,
right,
for sure.
And it's I was
so it's like I gotta take a risk and start asking people, would you like me to play with you? In different ways, but that's the question. And then sure enough, obviously, then last summer I played way too much. So
I was talking to my buddy Eric Von Oyen about this. And he was like, well, when I had a kid for a couple years after having a kid, I was like, all right, well, I'm in dad mode. I'm just not taking as many gigs. I'll take a couple a year. And then people just stopped calling. And I was like, man, have I just upset that many people? I was like, well, no, but think about would you call someone that is going to say no to something that you were going to ask them?
No.
Probably not.
No,
right?
If you need something and that person, correctly or not, but that person's not available, well, then you're not going to call them.
But and we were talking about it. It's and when this is in the future. He had gotten over
he'd gotten over it. Sure.
He's like, I just had to be like, hey, I'm doing gigs again,
That was it. And I did the same thing. I basically sent out 10 text messages. I got up the nerve. I'm like, all right, I gotta be vulnerable here and have somebody tell me, well, I stopped calling you because you sucked, right? And obviously nobody said that, but that's what you start telling yourself, imposter syndrome and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it was like I sent out 10 text messages, and then the gig that filled me up more of last summer than I expected was the inbound message that came completely out of the blue to somebody that I hadn't even thought about playing with in 10 years. And it was just, I was sitting on the floor in my living room, like, why did he text me? That's weird. And, I was like, oh, and there's no way he could have, and he didn't know that I was looking for a gig, but he's like, I need something. And it was like, okay, great. Yeah. And it was too much. And I had to decline joining his band. It was like, he wanted me for more than I could commit. I've had
to do that. It's also wild when you've known a thing and I don't know if you're like this, but I am a creature of habit and rhythm. And when the rhythm gets disrupted, sometimes I flail around,
Yes.
And so the Soggy Po Boys, leaving that band was, it was a really tough decision because this is the first time in an hour we've mentioned the Soggy Po Boys, by the way. They're like brothers to me. I adore them.
Yeah.
I love those people so much. But, it was one of those things where for personal creative reasons, I felt like I needed a change, but it was so strange because that band plays 100 gigs a year.
It was your identity.
At our peak, that band played over 250 gigs a year because we would do multiple gigs a day. We would go on tour almost every week. We were busy.
Yeah.
Plus, we had a weekly residency at in Portsmouth. So it was it was a busy band, and when that type of massive paradigm shift happens, you think, okay, well, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. But then you're like, okay, well, this is what I wanted.
I chose this.
I chose this. This is a decision that I made, So think of the reasons that you chose to make this decision and just do that stuff instead of being weirded out by this not being normal because
we are you said you're a creature of habit and rhythm, and I love that's another way of saying you're change resistant because you're a human being,
right?
We all are, right? It's to different degrees and in different ways, but
and also the idea of normal is totally subjective,
normal is comfortable, right? And so I don't know. Yeah,
I mean you when you've been in bands that we're playing together for years and then they pause, you're talking about this just 20 seconds ago,
Correct.
all of a sudden that normal is disrupted. And you're like, okay, I've
Now what?
known that I was in this place before, but it was long enough ago that I don't know what I did.
Yes, right. I don't know how to do this, except I do. I just got to stop thinking about it. There's a, it's probably on a drumstick sitting in there. It's one of my favorite quotes ever. It comes from Jaco Pastorius, bass player, one of my favorite musicians.
Great freak.
Yeah. Yes.
Great big freak.
I got to see him play with Weather Report when I was a kid.
Oh,
I know.
I love him.
Same.
Very interested in his personality.
Yeah, I mean he had demons.
Is odd.
The
end of his story is the craziest.
It's terrible. Yeah. But when Peter Erskine at less than 20 years old, Peter Erskine, kid at the time, drummer, fantastic drummer,
unbelievable,
right?
My God.
But when he joined Weather Report, he was scared. He's like, I'm playing with these heavy cats. Wayne Shorter, Joe Zawinul, Jaco Pastorius, and I got to go play this fusion music that everybody in the room is like, if you're not a musician, you know the parts anyway, right? This is like serious business. And so they're in rehearsals or whatever, and they're getting ready for the first gig, and Jaco can see that Peter's in his head.
He's just like,
it's not good. No. I can't play with somebody that's you got to be able to go out and deliver. And he said to him something that I love. It's easier said than done. He said, "Hey, man, don't think so much. Just concentrate."
That sounds like a Yogi Berra thing.
It's a Yogi Berra thing. It's totally a Yogi, but he's right. And that's why I love this quote. Don't think, just concentrate, right? If you stop thinking, you just focus on the thing you're doing and just do it, it's going to be better.
Yeah. I mean,
you already know how to do it.
You already know how to do it.
That's it.
Also one of the, I think as musicians, we get in our head sometimes when we have that we don't think that we went particularly well.
Yeah.
And this is a while ago, and I hope he never listens to this, but my father was at a gig, and the audience seemed to like it, but I was in my own head because I feel like I fucked up something, oh, dang, that I really wanted to execute well.
Yep.
And I was talking to him after, and he was like, "Well, why do you look so sour-faced?" And I was like, "Well, because I messed this thing up." And I was like, "Well, why do you look sour-faced now?" I was like, "Well, because I messed that thing up." He was like, "Well, what are you gonna do? Go back in time and change it? You're in the future, man."
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, "Damn, that's heavy."
And I like that. That's it. You're in the future, man. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And that is one of the things I am so I say it's one of the things I like, but it's really one of the things I'm grateful for about having somehow stumbled into this as the art that I create, because it's live art. And we get the ability to make a mistake, and then you have to let it go.
Well,
and just do the next thing.
There's a beautiful thing about it that I think, we don't think about because it's too big to wrap our heads around. But just hang with me for a second.
Yeah.
When you're doing music that's in any way improvisational, right? When you do that show, you and the audience experience a thing that is ephemeral in the definition of ephemeral. It's gone. The only moment that it could ever have been experienced is that moment. And then it's gone. Even if you played the same set with the exact same set list again, it's impossible to recreate that. It's gone. Even if you spent hours transcribing every solo that was played, the attack would be different. The intonation would be different.
It's not going to be the same.
It cannot be created. And I think sometimes we take for granted that what we get to do, especially in the improvisational sense, but in a lot of other senses, create a singular experience that can never happen again. And, we, obviously, blue chip tickets, Taylor and Lady Gaga and Vampire Weekend, people are going to go see those bands, and it's going to be amazing. But we take for granted that when we go see our buddies play on stage, we're witnessing a thing that it's built up at the beginning of the set and it's broken down at the end, and it will never exist again. And it doesn't mean that that music won't exist again. It just means that that experience, once you've had it, is gone. It's dead. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. Like we get to make things that people will never experience again. And because they have had that experience, they're like, oh, I want that. I know it won't be that, but
I want something like that again. Yes.
And then we try and do that again.
Yeah. And we sometimes succeed even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
This is two, I believe we went 497 episodes without the word ephemeral being used on this show about this exact same thing. And now, 2 weeks in a row, Brad Maddox said it last week. You said it today. So, and it's really about the same thing from two completely different angles. But I was going to say,
like, I'm now the king of ephemerals, sea turtles.
Yeah, ephemeral sea turtles. That's right. Yeah. Maybe that's the title of the episode.
Well, Dave,
we do need to wrap this up, though, because we're not going to go as long as I did with Brad, and we're dangerously close to the precipice of that.
Can I ask you two questions?
You can ask.
Right.
Sure.
And then if you want, you can ask me the same too, or
right.
we can call it, right?
Sure, yeah.
Which drummer was the drummer, not that got you into playing music, because that's not who I care about.
Yep.
But the drummer who, when you heard them, you're like, oh, this person's doing something different.
That was Neil Peart for me.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. That's why there's a picture of him on the wall right over there.
Technique? Was it sound?
It was, I don't know if at the time I could have put my finger on it. But in thinking back now with hindsight, it was two things. Number one, I was coming, I was whatever, in my mid-teens, early teens, whatever, and was exposed to this, the music of Rush, and it was like, okay, I understand this. It's beyond me, right? But
you feel it.
But I could listen to it and understand what he was doing. Like in so much as like I could have charted it out, right? Like I don't know that I could have played it. In fact, I know for certain that I couldn't have played it, right? But like it made sense to me, and it I was coming from orchestra and marching band and all of that, and also playing drum set, jazz band, and all those things. But a lot of it was mathy, right? Because I was reading sheet music and all that stuff. So that was a part of it. And that's probably the part, if you forced me to, that I would have in some way articulated at the time. The thing that really captured me, and it took me a long time to figure it out, was the lyrical nature of his drum parts, the evolution of them. And as an example, I'll say, going from the first verse to the first chorus would be some fill that was interesting, but not overly complex, and still serving the song in the context of that which is Rush, and which was obviously complex music to begin with.
Right, yeah.
And then the fill from the second verse into the second chorus was an expansion of that. It wasn't the same fill, but it wasn't a completely different fill either. It was just a more interesting...
It didn't repeat, but it rhymed.
It rhymed, yes. And then the third one was like, oh, wait a minute. That's where you've been building to, and probably that's where you started and somehow broke it down into these other parts so that you could build to this beautiful fill that just like sets this last chorus up and is amazing and all this stuff. And I know that attracted me then, but I don't think I would have realized it then.
Okay. And then my second question.
Yeah.
If you could see, anyone that you haven't seen that has since passed away, or that has passed away, like,
yeah.
If you could see a musician who is dead now live, who would that be?
That's a good question. There's there's 3 on my list of non-drummers who have influenced me greatly.
Okay.
I've already mentioned one, and I got to see him. It was Jocko.
Okay.
The other 2 are Miles Davis and Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
I never got to see either one of them. Jimmy passed before I was born, and Miles passed before I got to see him. There are many other musicians. Stevie Ray Vaughan's, somewhere in this top 5 too. I just never bothered to go see him, and then suddenly I couldn't. But single artist, it would be Jimi Hendrix. I would have wanted to see Jimmy, and I, as much if I could pick a moment in time as to when I could see Jimmy, as much as it would be cool to be like, at Woodstock or whatever, sometime in the late 60s.
God, I feel like we're so much in the same. Are you going to say Band of Gypsies?
Well, I absolutely, but no. Like, if I had to pick a time that Jimmy was alive to see Jimmy, it would be Band of Gypsies. However, what I would want to see is Jimi Hendrix today. Where did his career evolve? Because in our heads, he is stuck as being this noisy, classic rock guitar player, because that's when he died, right?
That's interesting, because I feel like that serves his legacy so much.
It is his legacy, and therefore it serves it. But I've often said that I think, and this would be of the top 5, the other person, I think if Jimmy had lived, I think he would have become something very similar to what Prince became. And I never got to see Prince either. But Jimmy was always experimenting. He was always doing different things. We now look back and see him as this cast in stone, like, blues rock guitar player doing different noisy things. He's frozen in yes.
But the thing is that's interesting to me is, like, because he's frozen there, all of his music just gets to be good forever.
It does. No,
you know what I mean?
You are 100% right. People would look back at that stuff and say,
imagine if the Stones were frozen in 1971.
Oh yeah, we'd still be allowed to play Brown Sugar, right?
The Stones are amazing.
The Stones are amazing. Yeah, exactly.
So, like, there's a lot of garbage that came out of it.
A lot of crap. And he would have had crap, but I think he would have always been pushing the envelope. And that's the part that I think is lost about Jimi Hendrix, is that the moment when we look back on him and see him, that moment, he was pushing the envelope, and then it froze.
And, it's interesting you say that, because, like, the thing that fascinates me is, like, I do think it's not a one-to-one, and I acknowledge that, but George Clinton's still alive today, and he is still pushing the envelope. Like, he's doing crazy stuff. I don't know if you've heard any of his last couple of records, but they are, whatever you think they're going to be, they're not that.
Really?
They're crazy. Like Parliament and Funkadelic, like he's mixing it up with hip hop artists. Like, the sounds are crazy. Like, he's really, really messing with some interesting stuff. And I'm very biased. Funkadelic's my favorite band of all time.
Okay.
They're my favorite band, and part of the reason they're my favorite band is there's just, like, no one person that I think is good. Like, they're just good together.
Yes, right. They are a band. Yeah.
Like, George Clinton's not a good singer.
Right.
Like,
but it works there.
Good together.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I often wonder about that, because, like, one of my heroes is Tom Waits. Tom Waits was not immune to the 80s.
It's true.
The 80s really exacted a toll.
Yes.
Anyway, I know we've gotten sidetracked.
No. Okay, so but I'm going to ask you the same questions, because this is really interesting, and my apologies. You can listen. You can pause and listen to more later, folks. What musician influenced you the most? You play guitar. I barely even mentioned that here.
Yeah, I do play guitar. So the first thing that I ever heard. So I'm going to parse this question and give you a 2-part answer. The first thing I ever heard that made me want to play guitar, I was sitting in my bedroom in Norwalk, Connecticut, and my buddy James was like, "You should check out this band Led Zeppelin."
Yeah, okay.
I'd never heard of it. Put in, literally, just moved to the country a year ago.
Sure.
Put in Zeppelin 4. And I hear the helicopter sound.
Yeah.
Hey, mama said the way you move. And then that guitar comes in, and I was like, all right, well, I'm playing music now.
You are not alone in this
Like,
story.
I'm not-
Yes.
I don't own a guitar, but I
Right.
need to find a way to do that.
We will get one. It's all going to be
I'm
fine.
going to find a way to do this.
Yeah.
But in terms of like someone who just like influenced me musically, like I can't say that it's George Clinton, but I'd have to say it's Funkadelic.
Okay.
Because what they channel is, I think, in absolute opposition to music education orthodoxy, which is like, what you play does not matter. The thing that matters is what you make people feel. And that is the only thing that matters. Because you watch those Funkadelic early videos from the early 60s or mid 60s, I guess. Like, there is some hair on those recordings.
This is a Stu Dias phrase, folks. You got to leave some hair on it. How many times in rehearsals for these Diaspora shows have I heard that? It's true, though. There's hair on those.
There's some hair on those recordings, you know, and they're not clean. They're not quote unquote beautiful, but to me they're beautiful.
Sure.
Because like when I'm listening to them, I'm having a visceral reaction to hear 4 people scream their damn faces off into a mic.
I haven't heard a single bit of Hendrix playing alone or with a band or anything that was clean and perfect.
There's hair on it.
There's hair all over it. It's
But I think that's the beauty of it. Like, and I think, you know, as musicians, sometimes we like the goal is to get it perfect. And I think these visionaries like Hendrix and George and Bootsy and, you know, and Catfish Colin, like they understood like, hey, the goal isn't to get it perfect. The goal is to make these people feel a thing.
Yeah.
And
if they can feel the same thing I'm feeling, even better. But
like,
as long as they feel a thing.
They feel a thing. Like, it doesn't matter how good I play. You know, like, in fact, if I play it perfect, and I'm focused on looking down at the guitar and making sure that every, you know, fret is in the right place, every finger is in the right place, where my pick stroke is articulated perfectly, and I'm looking down, that's not giving them the thing that they need or want.
Right.
That's just playing music well. And there's 1,000, 1,000,000 other people on planet Earth who can do that. But, you know, like when you, like years ago, I went to see Bad Brains, and like I was genuinely afraid of HR. Like genuinely afraid because of how all over the place he was. And again, this is like not recent. Like HR is not a young man in the time frame that I could have seen him. You know, like he's an older but that visceral reaction is just like, holy cow! Like I'm truly like a little bit afraid for my life.
Yeah,
this is good.
Yes.
So that's my answer. Like Funkadelic, not because they were good at music, but because they were good at music.
Because they were good at yes, I get that. And what band or what? Sorry, I'm going to ask the same question, because if you asked me what band I would want to see that you can't see, it would be the Beatles. But you asked what artist?
For me, it wouldn't be the Beatles, even though I adore them.
Yeah.
Just because, I guess it would depend on what alternate weird future we were living in.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because basically, once they did Rubber Soul, they stopped playing live shows.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to go see the Beatles play Please Please Me. I'd be bored.
Huh.
I love that music.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see that live. But
Yeah.
if you're telling me I can go see the Beatles play Sgt. Pepper's, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair.
If you're telling me we can go see the Beatles play Revolver,
I don't know. Well, yeah, right. That's the record. Rubber Soul and Revolver. You know? Like if they could just do a two set night and just play one and the other.
But they've never ever done that.
No, that's fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
Like,
yeah.
So if in this the universe of this question, I can go see him play that.
Sure.
Yeah, the Beatles.
Sure. Yeah, of course. But what artist that you didn't see that you can't see now would you have wanted to see?
All right, this is a totally out of left field answer because I've gotten to see Deep Purple in a couple of iterations. I got to see Black Sabbath. And
yeah,
Metallica.
same.
Like I got to see a lot of bands that I really love.
That's the benefit of being old.
Yeah. There's a band called Captain Beyond.
Captain Beyond.
Captain Beyond. All right?
Okay.
It's the original singer from Deep Purple.
Oh.
His name was Rod Evans.
Yeah?
And they released this record in the 70s. And it is, like, they released a couple of records, but the first one's really the best one. It feels like Deep Purple meets Pink Floyd, but more interesting than, like, it. I don't know how to describe it except for, you ever see those things at, like, the museums where, like, you put a quarter in and, like, it rolls down this funnel?
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah.
That's what the record feels like, because there's motifs that you hear and then you hear again, but slightly different because the quarter's going faster. And then you hear them again, but slightly different because the quarter's going faster. And it feels like that quarter rolling down the funnel. It's one of my favorite records, and I wish I could have seen that band. There's a bunch of other people from famous bands, but I don't want to perjure myself and get their names wrong.
Yeah.
No, I've got
it. Rod Evans from Deep Purple, and then you've got the guitar player and bass player from Iron Butterfly. You got Larry Reinhardt and Lee Dorman, and Johnny Winter's drummer Bobby Caldwell is in this band. Like it really is a super group. And it was formed in '71, and by the time 1977 rolled around, they were all set. They'd done 3 records, and that was that.
The second 2 were not good.
All right, yeah, which is probably why they didn't do a 4th.
Yeah.
Yep. That's fascinating. All right, we need to end this.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did. Brad and I did 90 minutes, which I thought was never even going to be challenged, and now here I am, a week later for all of you listening, less than 24 hours later for myself in recording, and yet here we are. There is one little phrase, and I can't show this to you on the screen because, of course, it doesn't work that way. But there's a 3-word phrase that we like to say on this show, Stu. And so
I heard you say it before.
You've heard me say it before. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did say it earlier. That's right. So I can certainly say it, but I would absolutely be honored if you would say this. Before you do, tell people where to find you, though, please.
You can find Diaspora Radio at diaspora-radio.com. You can find me on Instagram at Stuart Dias with an S. Plays music sometimes. And I kind of shy away from all other social media. But, if you want to connect with me via the Diaspora Radio site, I'll get back to you. I love playing music, but I am a private person.
There you go. That's not a bad thing. All right. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
What a blast. This was a long time coming, and we will do this again. And folks, I promise we'll put a clock on it next time. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Those 3 magic words, if you would, my friend.
Always be performing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you. 499 episodes in the can, folks. We got Mike Schulte coming up next week, and Stu started the trend. Mike's going to continue it. He's going to interview me about some things for the last 498 episodes. Take it easy, folks. We'll see you next week.
Man, that was fun as hell.
Fun stuff.
That was really, really